Any thinking or feelings or behavior that is affecting you on these levels, we say you are mentally unhealthy.
Oh.
You know, and every mentally healthy person should be able to cope and adjust to situations, form and maintain meaningful relationships, should be able to live independently, contribute meaningfully to society, have a good self-image and identity. Then also should be able to pursue meaningful life goals. So mental health is that simple. You know, so what we are talking about is on the domain of mental health. So anybody who is affected by what we are coming to talk about, the person is unwell and needs help.
Okay.
You know, so for example, if you have COVID-19 or you have malaria or something, you go to the hospital. In the same way, when you're unwell, on the level of your thinking, feelings or behavior, it means you need help. So that is the mindset that I want people to have whilst they listen, that it is a helping thing that we're going to talk about. So after every election, you know, people go into some kind of distress or some kind of pain, depending on what the expectations were and whether they were met or not. So any unmet expectations would cause a certain trauma or pain that may significantly impair a person's functioning. So that is simply that. So some pain that people go through and it significantly impairs their functioning because of their dashed expectations or met expectations about some election that went on. So for example, Ghana, our election declared yesterday. So people who were disappointed by the outcome because they had a certain expectations, they may go into a certain kind of pain. And that pain may significantly impair their functioning. So it only becomes a concern when it's impairing your functioning.
Okay.
Because everybody who's disappointed may go through some pain. They may quickly get over it, or some few days, few hours, they're over it, and it may not significantly affect them. But it becomes significant when it is impairing your day-to-day activities. You're unable to function because of that.
Okay, so let me come, because you're a medical doctor, let me come from this medical point of view. You know, when we talk of pain, we have several forms of pain. We have the headache, we have the heart attack. What specific pain are we talking about here?
So this pain comes from an emotional point of the emotional direction. So it's an emotional pain, but emotional pain would have can have some physical, you know, symptoms of physical pain associated with it.
Okay.
So that is why when you go through some emotional pain, you may feel some chest pain or some chest tightness, or you may find some aches and pain, non-specific aches and pain. You may even have a headache. You may even have some kind of even abdominal pain, just because you have some intense emotional pain or discomfort.
Oh, okay. So the emotional pain can cause...
Yeah, it can cause all kinds of, you know, discomfort in your body, because any kind of perception from the environment, the body responds.
Okay.
You know, by releasing all kinds of, you know, chemicals that is responsible for everything that happens in the body. So some people, even at this time, if they even have hypertension, the hypertension may become worse, because when there's any stressful event, the body releases stress hormones, and those hormones can cause changes in blood pressure, your pulse, your breathing, and all that. Some may even have some diarrhea, you know, symptoms, just because they are going through some kind of emotional problems. So emotional pain causes other kind of discomfort in the body that may be measured as in physically. It may be translated into some physical symptoms. And so some people may come to the hospital, they think, you know, I'm having palpitations, I don't know what is happening. And you may think they may have some heart issues or hypertension or something, but you check and they may have some psychological pain or emotional pain. So that is it.
Okay, so let me come to Pastor.
Yes.
From your biblical point of view and other things, how does this trauma come about?
Okay, let me, I would come this way, but let me move, you know, doctor is very, you know, I want to make it a bit simpler. I mean, when we talk about trauma, we are talking about, there's an event.
Okay.
I mean, you go through an event, and because of that event, of course, you were so distressed, and that's the pain he's talking about. Because something has happened, I've lost a job. I'm losing my loved one. I mean, someone is dead. My marriage is breaking. It's an event. How do you respond to that event? So that response to that event is what you are going through, and that's the trauma.
Okay.
I don't know if... And we have a number of examples of, I mean, in the Bible, where people have gone through traumatic, stressful situations. And I believe that is what we are going to talk about in the context of there is an election. It is an event. Now, but the actual event is that the person witnessing the election, of course, people are following. There is anxiety. You are not sure what is happening and all that. Elections, will it be declared? Will it not be declared? What will be the outcome? That one alone is a stressful situation. Then eventually you get to know the outcome and it goes contrary to what you were expecting. It's another stressful situation. And you definitely go through some psychological pain, like Doc has, and that is the trauma we are talking about.
I just want to bring all of you back and let's see, how does it begin? Like, how will I really know that this situation is the traumatic situation I'm going through as a result of this? How will somebody be able to detect, and how does it begin? Doc?
Yeah, so it begins from what you know as your expectations about something.
Okay.
So you'll be able to identify where the trauma is coming from, election or not, where the election, the person had a certain expectation about the election. So that may give you an idea that this kind of pain the person is going through was basically based on the elections. And it begins from people's assessment of their current situations in view of what their future is. Okay. So if anybody has some cognitive distortion or some thinking that is not right about themselves, the world around them and their future, they go into some kind of psychological problems.
Okay.
So it is not really the event that is the problem, but the person's perception and interpretation and processing of that event.
So like how?
No, you see, yes, so the perception, that one counts because of the person's relationship to the event. That's how I would say. Okay. In other words, he said, for example, nothing bothered him. When some of us were keeping wake to monitor results, he wasn't. Exactly. So, so he doesn't care what press conference, which party is doing and whatnot. But another person is, because the person more or less relates with that event. So election is ongoing, and I have a certain relationship. I have a certain interest.
Okay.
Because of that interest that I have, I perceive whatever is coming out and I receive it in a particular way. And so that makes me to react in a particular. You could be sweating under AC just because of something.
Okay.
You know, so in other words, it's a psychological issue, it's a mental issue, but in most cases, you would see some physical, you will see some effect that will come out physically.
Okay.
Like you are in AC and all of a sudden you are sweating. You know, it can happen that way. You could just cry, you know, and these come out physically for you to see. But it is not always that you would see it coming out physically, because it goes on there. So there's someone who is stressed and you don't see anything about the fact that the person is stressed or traumatized.
Okay. So, Doc, let me also come back here. From the medical point of view, okay, how the person processes the information can also lead to that. So let's take it, for instance, the person has lost the election, okay? Now, you were talking about he thinking of the future. What are some of the things that may go on within the person that can trigger that traumatized situation or that stress disorder?
Everything that happens around us, we process them internally, and depending on how we process that kind of information, our actions are different. So something happens to someone, events happen, how the person processes that event will determine the outcome. So there's a stimuli, there is an outcome, but in between the two, there is a certain kind of processing that goes on. So for example, two people may lose an election. One person will say, okay, elections, you know, okay, comes and goes. Okay, another time will come, I'll stand again. The person is likely to have a certain positive emotional feel, though there will be some pain. Another person will say, what did God do to me after all the prayers and fasting? This life cry. I don't think anything good can come out of my life. You know, I don't think these people are even ungrateful. After all the things I've done for them, look at what they've done to me. What is happening to them? Is it my destiny? You know, so when you become very irrational, very negative about that event, then there's a problem. So in any stressful event, people evaluate that stressful event on two levels. One, they process the event itself. And if that processing is negative, they would have a certain negative response. So if they think it's life-threatening, it's damaging, it's distressing, it's disappointing, you know, all those negative evaluation of that kind of event may trigger some kind of emotional response that is negative. The next evaluation they do, you know, also internal evaluation, they look into themselves to find out whether they have what it takes to mitigate the impact of that kind of disappointment, or whether they have external resources to help them. That is where family comes in, you know, support from other people, even work and all comes in. So they do that internal assessment about their own potentials to find out whether they have what it takes themselves to be able to handle that kind of disappointment. Then the next thing they do has to do with the fact they find out, okay, do I have some external resource to be able to cushion me? So for example, someone has spent a lot of money on this election and they've lost. Now they'll have to evaluate their losses and find out how do I get it back and who is there to support me. But if you lost an election, though it's painfully though, but you have family members around you encouraging you, giving you support. If you lost some money, family members are around to support financially and all that. The impact of that kind of disappointment may be less than someone who is virtually lost everything. I know some people may have gone for loans and all that, you know, to be able to run an election, and maybe family support is not there. Maybe even the wife told him, Charlie, don't go, but he went. you know, women.
Or the husband.
Women have some antennas, sharp antennas. They will tell you, Charlie, I dare you come in, Charlie, be careful.
Be careful.
Maybe the wife said it, but the guy didn't listen, he went. Now when he comes home, the wife is there. You know, the wife may say, "Chame catch you know." And I told you so. You know, so depending on that kind of, you know, the evaluation about the external support and stuff, you realize that it would either affect them negatively or not. So that event happened, like you said, people have a certain attachment or relationship to them. If the relationship is strong, expectation is strong, the impact may be greater. But in the midst of that, when they are able to process that information well, then they are able to, you know, deal with that kind of traumatic events better. So the Bible even tells us whatever is true, whatever is of good report, whatever is praiseworthy, whatever is you know is lovely and all that. It says dwell on these things. You know, and as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. You know, so that kind of process. So the word of God is meant to change the way you think, so that you can better appreciate life events and put them in the right context. There are a lot of people who over-magnify, catastrophize. Like, for example, you lost a relationship, so you say that all men are the same. I don't think I was born to marry. You know, God has, you know, that kind of, that is not what the truth. The truth is not that all men are not the same. You can marry, regardless of the pain that you are going through. You know, so even the Bible will say weeping may endure. It didn't use weeping will endure. It says may. So it means that the length of your weeping is dependent on you. You can decide to stop crying like God told, you know, is it Samuel who was weeping over Saul? He said, Charlie, stop crying over this guy. I've moved on a long time, so you need to move on. Then he cleaned his eyes and went to drink cocoa. And stop weeping over. And that is critical because this life is, you know, the Bible is meant to change how you think. And when people are able to think well about situations, you know, though things may be painful though, but it helps them deal with some of the problems, you know, better than when they are always negative about everything.
So coming to the...
Yes, before we can even get to that, you know, kind of outlook to life and all that, I think we should understand the stages that people have to go through in grief. I mean, the theory is on grief, but we can use it when it comes to going through a traumatizing situation, because it's all. So, I mean, the truth is that most people begin with denial.
Very good.
All right, so that I'm going through a very stressful situation and I am telling myself, no, this is not happening to me. So I begin with denial. I mean, I don't want to believe that I am losing this election. I don't want to believe that I have lost this election. I don't want to believe that, I think that I didn't lose. Let's recount. Let's do this. And then we are in denial.
Okay.
It is after that that we go to the next stage of being angry.
Good.
With others, you know. So it is anger, and it is like, okay, so we are looking for someone to blame. Oh, if my campaign manager hadn't done this, then, you know, so you are like this, that. So you are blaming others. You are angry with others.
So that is the next stage.
The next stage. And then you move to the next, which is, called bargaining, anger inward. You are now blaming yourself. You are now, if I had done it this way, if I had, you know, that kind of thing. It is from there that you move into depression. And for me, that is the danger zone. Yeah, because the kind of depression that you can go into is where you are like, the future is bleak. There is nothing ahead for me. I have invested everything that I have into this election. So how am I going to cope? How am I going to move on? How am I going to, I sold my house, I sold my this, I sold my that. So you are depressed, and people can move into more damaging, actions. One can, through this depression, decide to, kill himself or herself. So this politician has promised me that if he wins election, he will do X, Y, Z for me. Now that he has lost, what is it in life for me? So, and I am the head of the family. And now that he has lost, it means I'm going to lose my job, because it was through
especially when the person you were employed
by the person. And it is because he's occupying a certain political position. Now he has lost. How am I going to cope? What will my family eat? So after denying and blaming and bargaining and all that, you are now facing reality. And of course, well, your reality, I will say your reality, because as far as your reality is concerned, there is nothing ahead. There's nothing in life for you. That is the end of it.
From the way you are, in those cases, not even the one who really lost the election.
It can affect family. And because we are talking about family, that is why I'm even using the issue of family.
Yes.
Because my party has lost, there is a certain loss for me. And so I go through the stages, now I am depressed.
Okay.
It is only when people are able to go through the depression that they can get to the last stage, acceptance.
Okay.
Accept that I have lost the election. Accept that this is reality. Accept that this is what has happened. And then, what Doc was talking about comes in. Accept and move on.
Okay.
And that is life.
So before we go to move on, because we have to come to a situation where how can we help to move on? Before we go there, let's come to Doctor. Let's take, for instance, that the person have now gone into that traumatic situation, that stress disorder. The person is in it now. How do the person come out? Like, how will the person be able to come out of that stressful situation? Because it's not going to be easy. Looking at where Dr. Josiah started from, that moving from one stage to another, thinking of I've lost, okay, this person did this before, because that is why, let's do recount, let's do this press conference, that and that. So all these things are built up of emotions to the point where at least nothing will be done. Nothing can be done about it. So now my word is lost. You are now in the situation where you are traumatized. What can the person do?
So what we are discussing, like I said at the beginning, it's a mental health issue, you know, such that you need some form of help. You know, and when you get to a certain stage in life, you may think that seeking help about these things is a sign of weakness. It's not.
Okay.
It's not. Elijah had to run away because of a threat from a woman. So, so if Elijah can run away,
why would
you know, you will die. So,
Yeah.
so it's, you know, when it comes to these mental, people are even shy to talk about. People are even shy to come and open up and say that, "Chala, I'm depressed," because they do the mindset that it's a health issue is not there. So there's some approach to help when it comes to these things. First of all, you need some professional help. Then also you need some personal, you know, steps you need to take yourself to be able to get out of it. So when professional help, what I mean is that you may have to talk to someone who can help you about, not just talk to a friend or someone around, but someone who maybe an older, you can speak to a mentor, but preferably maybe a counselor or maybe a psychologist or someone who has some kind of experience. Like you see, the way Doc was talking about stages of grief, not everybody on the street or someone around who even understands stages of grief. You know, I remember a week ago, someone sent me a message about a woman who's lost a husband or something. And I told him that people grieve, and usually when they go through grief properly, it even helps them become better. If you stop them from weeping and all those things, you know, they become worse. So I told him, relax, this woman is going through some form of grief. She will be fine. So you always have to talk to someone who has some kind of knowledge so that the effectiveness of whatever suggestions or whatever they will do with you will be higher than when you talk to someone who doesn't know. So that is the first point of call. I think that anybody who is really drowning and it's affecting your functioning, you just have to walk into any hospital or walk into any office you think the person can help you. Then the person can listen to your story. Sometimes your approach to the coping itself may even stem from even way back experiences and what you've been going through in life. And so that has become the basis for your challenges now. You know, people's troubles do not just begin. It has a history. And depending on what the history is, the approach to managing events is difficult. If you've had a lot of, you know, we say when people go through challenges, they become philosophers. That's when they have all kinds of quotes about life. So everything has a history. So sometimes you may be struggling to deal with that particular problem, not because you're not strong, but you have a certain history you're not able to deal with. So when you speak to a professional or someone who knows how to deal with these things, they're able to put your problem in a certain perspective. Then when you see them, they have all kinds of, you know, interactions they will take you through, and all kinds of assessments they may do to find out and evaluate your situation, to find out what it is and how severe it is. Then based on that, they would suggest the appropriate treatment. In addition to that, some people who even go through some major depression may even be given some medications to control their symptoms for a while. Then they may go through something we call psychotherapy, where a professional will take you through some kind of interactions to help you think, feel, and behave appropriately.
So that one might have gotten to the highest.
Yes. So that is one step for someone who is really struggling and needs professional help. In addition to that, we also may teach people some things they may do in order to help themselves even in this season. I'm sure that will be the next thing we'll talk about. But the approach should be that in the time of grief or problems, you may need some kind of support. And seeking support doesn't mean that you're weak. It means that you're just human and you need help, because we all need help. Sometimes I'm there and I'm drowning myself. You know, sometimes you'll be shocked that you may know all the theories and all the problems, but when
it cannot be applied.
Imagine I was the one who lost an election. I'm sure by now I'm not here talking about all these principles. And, you know, so we all need some help.
I think also, so what Doc is talking about is that.
Let's before we come in, I want us to take a short break. Okay. Because I want to give our viewers the chance to relax and then come and talk with us. And when we come, we'll just announce our phone line. So, my dear boy, we're just going for a short break because we want to get to know more. Doctor has mentioned psychotherapy, seeing a doctor. So, all the medical terms are coming. So, don't go away. Just relax and then wait for us. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Family Praises 20 years, hooray! On Saturday, 12 December 2020 at 6 p.m. Join us live on Hope TV as we celebrate in grand style with the theme, We Give Thee Thanks. Get ready to experience a transformational encounter of thanksgiving with the Lord as we tell the stories of our journey with our music. Remember, this is happening on Saturday, 12 December 2020 at 6 p.m. prompt, live on these media. TV, Hope TV, Facebook, Hope TV Ghana, and YouTube, Hope TV Ghana. You do not want to miss the most anticipated virtual show of the year. For details and enquiries, call or WhatsApp 0552 890-095. This event is proudly brought to you by the Seventh-day Adventist Music Ministry and Hope TV.
Inauguration. Oh, come, let us sing unto the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Hooray! Meminda akwanhwefo sorry ewo atoye Southwest Ghana Conference the SDA Church. Any atoye fam meminda akwanhwefo esom awodo no. Eto nsa frɛ agirifo. Nsɔre awodo. Esom awodo. Any nyina say, woman so wo mu abia. Na won Pow district foforo Kekam district awono. The din at the Anya district. Positioning the church in giving hope beyond tomorrow. Amen. 19 December 2020. Venue no. Teleco Bokazo DC School Park. Time no. 9 a.m. Osofo Jumadiei Esini Stressor. Any Pastor Samuel Frimpong. Ono Anya district. Pastor Jainum any editre Yatusa Afrewo. Guest speakers. Pastor Yao Kwachi Adiefe. President of the Southwest Ghana Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Pastor Isaac Ofori Atta, Executive Secretary of the Southwest Ghana Conference of the SDA Church. Pastor Jonah Kwating Enchi, Treasurer of the Southwest Ghana Conference of the SDA Church. FA Medianinje S will say, guest artist no, Medianinje can be say, for Chain Mensa and the Victory Voices, Banzimao. Amen. Guest of honor, Honorable Emmanuel Amakofibua, MP for Elembele. Special guest, Honorable Kwasi Bonzo, DC for Elembele. Nana Afo Kwao, the Chief of Teleco Bokazo, Nana Abena Damtewa, Adonte Hima, Ewo, Wasa Tobias, Enano, Unyamia Yebio, and Utimum Ramayan Fanasi, Aye, and income for Emom Efaba Tradian Bokwame, if said Yawayano, a Dawson. Amen.
You are still on Family Life. My name is Mrs. Betty Adam, and we are discussing post-election trauma. I'm here with Dr. Isaac Arthur. He is a medical doctor and a psychologist, and then another doctor, pastor. He is also a counselor, a lecturer, and a theologian, Pastor Dr. Josiah Ando. We are here to see how best we can support our families out there to be able to cope with these election losses. It's not just about the MP or the political party or whoever have lost. It's about the individuals around, the entire nation. A lot of people are attached to all these political parties. Money has been invested. Now you've lost. We couldn't make it. It has affected everybody. If we are not careful, a lot of people will end up in a whole lot of mental situation. This is what we want to avoid. And so we are here discussing the various stages, the processes, the help we will need to be able to cope with this situation. And so let me walk my guests in, and then they will continue with the discussion. Where with Dr. Jose Ando, is that right?
Doc had talked about, seeking help.
Yes.
And I want to reiterate.
Okay.
We always have the tendency to self-medicate.
Right there. I'm coming.
All right.
So I just want to announce our WhatsApp line for you to also interact with us through our WhatsApp pages, so that Dr. Josiah will send all the information that we need. So we have 0559680066, 0559680066. You can interact with us on our social media page too. On our Facebook, we are live on Facebook and YouTube. You can go there and send us your information. We will get in touch with you. If you also want to contribute so much to what we are discussing, if you think there is something we need to add, you can also add there, and we'll read to our viewers. And so, Doctor?
Yes, so I was saying that people have the tendency to self-medicate. Yes. You are going through a situation, and so you want to help yourself. It's good to want to help yourself. The person would go take in alcohol. The person will go take in some drug that would either depress or stimulate him or her, just because he is going through a situation. And that's why Doc is saying, when you are ill physically, you go to the hospital. In the same vein, when you are ill mentally, when we talk about being ill mentally, it is not about being insane or being mad. So when you are going through a stressful situation after an event, that kind of trauma, that kind of situation is a mental health situation. Seek a professional. I do counseling, but I do not do the kind of therapies that the psychologist will do.
Okay.
Though I do psychological counseling, when I meet a situation that will need a clinician, I would do, I'll just say, go see a clinician, a clinical psychologist, and that would help. So it is better to seek help. And the kind of help that you should seek should be, because when you are ill, you don't go to see any quack. You see a professional. And that is what I wanted to reiterate before we went on break.
Okay. Okay. And so, Doctor, coming back to you, we want to see the various processes. Okay. So you were talking about where the person should see a professional. Now, after seeking a professional, because there are some people who can go through the professional treatment, all right, but still would not accept themselves. So such people, how do they deal with the situation?
Let me state that you need help when you realize that whatever you're thinking or feeling or behaving is impairing your functioning.
Okay.
And it's not everybody who may need that kind of major kind of psychological support. But if you realize that whatever you're going through is impairing your functioning, it means you need help. And when you seek help, that is when you maybe walk into a hospital or a counseling office or something, and a professional there who is being trained to handle these things can take you to some kind of therapist. So that is it. Then also there are things that people themselves can do to be able to help them deal with whatever they are going through, so that if they realize that it's not becoming effective, they can seek professional help. So there are some self-help things that we teach people to deal with all kinds of emotional problems.
Example.
So one of the things has to do with the fact that people would have to positively evaluate every situation regardless.
Okay.
Positive evaluation of events deals with most of the psychological problems. Like I said, it may not be the event itself, but how you process the event. So anytime, for example, if I lose a job now, I have a mindset, okay, I've lost a job. God is taking me to another place. Instead of saying that, God, why me? No, why not you? God is taking me to another place. I've lost a husband. Okay, I can marry again. Nobody's stopping me from. So we always have to, okay, I failed at the exams. I'll write again, I'll pass. People fail. I'm not the first person to fail in this world. So positive evaluation of events, like we quoted the scripture, Philippians 4. 6, whatever is true, whatever is, whatever is good report, dwell on these things. I think 6 to 8. It says, and the peace of God that surpasses all understanding would garrison your heart and your mind. Right? So positive evaluation of events is so important. The next thing we teach people is they should surround themselves with positive people. Because when you surround yourself with positive people, they help you actually lift you up instead of bring you down. Then also feed on positive information. This is not the time to go listen to trolls and stuff on Facebook or listen to all kinds of news that is negative all the time about the election. This is the time to be able to encourage yourself about things, information that is positive and can lift you up and can encourage you. Then also we advise people to be more thankful about what they have instead of what they didn't have, and be more hopeful about the future instead of being very negative. So thankfulness helps, significantly. Then we encourage people to also rest well, eat well, because your body now needs a lot of vitamins, vitamin B complex, and all those things to be able to think well. Then also prayer and meditation. When people pray and meditate, it helps them, those kind of experiences, divine experiences, and even the processes in terms of when you're praying or meditating, it helps you, deal with all kinds of internal, problems. Then also, if you're married, we encourage sex. Sex is an important.
You are going to kill the other partner.
No, don't kill.
Let me give you. Sex improves, well-being in 3 ways. There are some hormones, chemicals that are released during sex: dopamine, endorphins, and oxytocin. Endorphins will help with pain. Dopamine and oxytocin helps with. It gives a certain pleasurable feel. Helps improve sleep and all that.
Yeah.
You know, so it
So
also
the
helps.
other partner becomes the
No, it's not the other
But the other partner also enjoyed those same hormones.
how?
It's the same. You know, when I hug you, it
Okay.
feels good because your body releases oxytocin. Simple.
Wow.
So that feeling is not just because of that. The body responds.
Okay.
So sex improves on emotional well-being significantly. And I put marriage in terms of context because, you know, sex outside marriage has its own problems.
Yes.
So that adds to your own stresses and all that. So that's why, in that context. Then finally, we encourage people to also exercise.
Don't go there. Let me still stress on the sex because we are dealing with family issues. You see, because somebody may hear that, oh, because sex can help me, so he's going to give it every day. What about that side?
Well, I think that when sex doesn't
So
come
which
from...
one are you talking
No,
about now?
when sex that comes from a certain agreement and a certain... I don't know, it shouldn't be forced. It
Yeah,
should be some
so-
mutual
So,
understanding.
I mean, if paracetamol can help me overcome headache, doesn't mean I should take in paracetamol every day. I think what is being said was, I mean, yes,
Okay.
sex is good in terms because of the hormones that are released during sex, which is true. But that doesn't mean that, okay, oh, because of that, oh, I come from work, I'm stressed, sex, and all that. No, I mean, you don't, I mean, do that. But the truth of the matter is that because of how pleasurable sex is, these hormones are released and they help you to relax and calm down.
So this one is for the married people.
Yes, marital
who are
sex.
going through this.
Yes,
We're talking
person
about
is
family, so
single.
it's family.
Yes,
we're
if the
talking about
person is single, there are other ways. I think
Yes.
Doc has talked about prayer, meditation, sing hymns. You know, these help to uplift your mood.
Okay.
Okay. But he was about to talk about exercise,
Yes.
which is very, very, very important. Take a walk around the neighborhood. You know, I mean, get a nice environment where, I mean, you see beauty. You would appreciate the beauty. It takes your mind off the whatever, I mean, the pain it is, and it relieves you because whatever beauty you see also releases some hormones into your system, and it's okay for you. And so you see, it is not just that, oh, because it said sex releases hormones and all that, therefore we just go having sex. And even in marital sex, it has to be good. It shouldn't just be about just going because I have to and all that. If the two of them consent and do it well, the two of them are happy, it gives so much more advantages than anything.
Okay, you come in.
No, I won't go there again.
No, I know, don't go
again.
in there again. So let's come to the exercise you were talking about. Is it a strenuous exercise?
No,
or
it's any workout, maybe jogging, brisk walk, and all that. And I tell people that the day I started exercising,
Okay.
you feel differently. Like when you start exercising, you feel different, and because the body goes into a certain all kinds of detoxification, all kinds of things happen when you exercise. So exercise is very, very good. Okay. Then the final thing I'll add about the self-help thing has to do with the fact that people will now have to reevaluate their expectations and focus on what is really important.
Okay.
Think about it. We really don't need a lot in this life to be happy. We don't. It is the excesses that put unnecessary stress on us, such that we think we must have, otherwise we will not be happy. But if we think about it clearly, you don't need a 5-bedroom house.
In fact, it's very stressful to even be in that big house.
So if we think about it, anything that is extra puts extra stress on us. So we may have to reevaluate, do you really have to be an MP to be fulfilled in life? No, you don't really have to. It is something extra, because if you want to serve the people and the people say, I don't want you to serve me, I think it should even ease, because MPs tell you the stress. Many of them don't even know what is involved.
Seriously?
They think about all the, Anna in quotes and all the fun around it. But it's stressful. It is a lot of stress. You can't sleep too much. And most of them may develop hypertension, diabetes, and all that, because haven't you realized that most of the politicians, suddenly develop gray hair,
Yes.
Because of the stress involved in the work. So we really have to modify our expectations and our goals to focus on what is really necessary. And this pandemic has taught us to focus on what is necessary. Those days you think if you don't travel, you haven't really, arrived. You know, but now travel is not the issue again. You know, no, it's not when you say you've traveled to US and so what. You know, if you say France, so you know, so now we realize that we are focusing more on family. We are focusing on what is important. So in any crisis, you really have to start reevaluating your own, you know, expectations and goals to focus on what is necessary and what will protect you and your health and the things around. Because all the stressful things, those days I used to worry about many things. You know, I used to carry many things. And one day I said, I wasn't asked to carry the world on my shoulders.
No.
You know, it's my own cross. You know, and your own cross should be very bearable. But whenever you realize you are drowning, it means you may be doing more. And sometimes we think we are so important that if we don't do it, something will happen. Nothing will happen. When you die, your wife will marry another person, or husband will marry. You know, if you die, your children will move on. Sometimes you think that if you don't do this for this, if you don't do that, something will happen. But we are not that important too. If you think about it carefully, we are important, but we are not super important such that if we don't do something, something will happen. And that kind of way of thinking, I must, I should, you know, all that kind of absolute statements put undue stress on us, such that we are always overburdened with people's expectations and what they think, instead of what is really necessary. So this season may be offered an opportunity for people to really evaluate their own expectations and goals and focus on what is important.
Because we have two major issues at stake now. We have the pandemic to manage, and you have your election losses to manage. So any of them can put you off the road, and if you are not careful, you will. Because this, I posted something on my Facebook page, and somebody reacted to it. I was asking that I thank God for giving me the strength to forgive, and I blah blah blah, and then I ended up by saying that I thank God that I'm able to share all that I'm sharing, but not in monetary forms, but a form of love and true love and smile. And somebody said, share money too. Okay, so I just sat down and realized that, in fact, people are going through a lot of trouble, not because they want to go through, but pressure outside. Somebody think that you are you are good, you have money, you are rich, and so therefore, whatever I need, you have to give it to me. That is the trouble the MPs are going through. I'm just saying this to buttress the point that those who have lost should see it as maybe God is preserving them from going into certain terrible situations. Because now you have to work hard, get more money to be able to meet societal demands. If not, somebody somewhere will think that meanwhile the money that you even invested in the campaign, you've not even gotten it. So you have to do extra, and that extra is going to add extra stress, another extra. So you yourself as a person, you have now attained MP. You are not happy. Money is not coming. Society expects a lot from you, and so you become so. So it's some way God is taking some burdens. If we can see it that way, God is taking some burdens out of our. But now let me come in with this. We've been able to prescribe how people can help themselves. But let me see how dangerous and serious it is if somebody is able to go through this trauma, the negative impact on the person. Doc.
Yes, the negative impact, I think we've said earlier that it can get physical. I mean, somebody who is unable to manage this traumatic situation of losing an election, or a loved one losing an election, or a party losing an election, can get high blood pressure and get a stroke all of a sudden, just because he has heard some bad news about, I mean, the election. He can just all of a sudden, you know, I mean, it can actually deteriorate your physical health.
Okay.
It can also affect those who are around you. You know, I mean, your physical health is in trouble, and because it's mental, you may not be able to function properly with those around you. I mean, you can just say things that would affect your children, your wife, your husband, or whoever, your family. And so it can have ripple effects on other aspects of society. And of course, it can have a very serious impact on your relationship with God. Because, I mean, especially if you're a believer and you're like, why is it that I prayed to God and my prayer was not answered?
There was even a prophecy.
There was even a prophecy.
Why
didn't it can affect your relationship with God? And for me, that is the most serious impact. Because if an election loss or whatever trauma I go through after election is able to affect my relationship with my God, it means it has a tendency of affecting my salvation. And that is dangerous.
And so let's try to wrap up. In wrapping up, as we are on family life, what contribution can families make to support, to ease those traumatic situations from people? So we use this to wrap up.
I think families have a responsibility towards each other just to be there. You know, when Job's friends came, they sat down for days without saying a word. You know, sometimes you just need someone's presence, just not to talk. Sometimes when someone is grieving, you just have to be there and not even say anything and allow them to go through that grieving process. Sometimes with their presence alone helps. And if you genuinely know that you have some kind of physical or financial support or something to be able to ease the burden of someone who is going through some kind of problem, just do it for them, because that period is very, very critical. And social support is a major thing that helps people go through some traumatic event, you know, successfully. So I would encourage family members to be more understanding with, maybe you advise the person went anyway. It's good the person tried. You know, it's always good for people to make a certain progress with their lives. So people should have to understand each other. They should be able to help each other. They should be there for them. And also, if they have any specific need, they think they can help, they should go ahead and do that. Then when families also pray together in the time of crisis, you know, the unity is held on by God himself, you know, and it helps. So pray for the other person, because sometimes words are not enough. It doesn't even make sense. Sometimes you just have to pray for the person and trust God to speak to the person, because sometimes it takes God to speak to someone.
Very good.
All
no,
right.
Just a second, because our time.
Oh, a second. I will say all things work together for good to them that love God and who are called according to his promise. Whatever happens to you, God has a plan, and it may turn out into something good.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to you all for coming. In fact, the time is small for us, and we believe we could have talked more. But the most important thing is that our families need to support us in this crisis. And we also have to know that it's not all the time that we win. Definitely there must be a loss somewhere. But how we evaluate it and then cope with the situation is the most important. Doctor, thank you so much for your time. And Doc. So today I'm blessed.
This dog pastor.
Yes, so today we were with Dr. Pastor Josiah Andor, a lecturer and a counselor. He also has his own counseling session center. You can also approach him. He will help. And we have a medical doctor and a clinical psychologist, Dr. Isaac Newman Arthur. They were here to support us, my dear viewer, to be able to get this information that we are having now. It's just by God's grace that God brought them to us. And so this evening, I want to encourage you. I want to entreat you. Be strong in the Lord. In all things, be strong in the Lord. Forget not the God who gave you the strength to go through this process, because not all people who started with you were able to end the race. So no matter how the outcome is, for the sake of peace and for the country Ghana, may we accept our condition and then work towards a better future. Maybe God wants you to learn some small lesson and then prepare yourself for another victory another time. Until then, we meet next week the same time on this same show. I'm your usual Mrs. Betty Adom. And then I want to say that, remember, Jesus is coming. The King of Kings is coming for his own land. How are you preparing? The energy we put in this election, let's put the same energy in saving soul for Christ. So together we'll wear our crown of victory in heaven. Stay glued to your TV next week. Stay blessed. May the Lord be with you. Amen.
Amen.
changing lives.